This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Headed over to the McLarty Daniel hotline and time to talk with Grant Hall. Always appreciate his time on Wednesdays. Good morning, Grant. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, man. What do you think about this Cardinals trade, Jack Flaherty? Now, they made some other deals, but hold on to Goldschmidt, hold on to Arenado. The Arenado situation was interesting because it kind of made him speak for himself. But you knew Flaherty would get traded. Get 3 prospects from the Orioles, but I don't think they got top prospects. Sounds like Baltimore wanted to hold on to their best prospects.
I think they got 9 pitchers in all, 7 right-handers maybe. You know, it's one of those things where you won't know for several years what this was about, but, who benefited the most. They just, like last night, they lost 3-2 basically on an error by the shortstop, and they just gave their shortstop away earlier in the day. So it's basically like I saw that the attendance in St. Louis was 37,000 last night, and it looked like more like about 18,000. It looked like the smallest crowd in years because if the front office is going to give up on this year, then I think the fans sometimes respond by. I want to, if you're a season ticket holder, can you say, hey, can I just apply all of these seats now to next year if I don't go anymore this year?
Unfortunately, it does not work that way. And their Cardinals fans are not used to this, but I've been telling you for years, welcome to my world. Sooner or later it happens, and then you see the no-shows. And I wonder
Man, you guys have rallied. You're like 2 games ahead of the Cardinals now, the Pirates are.
Well, I hope they finish behind them. They'll get a better chance at the top pick. And I think at this point, you might as well shoot for that once again. The thing that stands out, though, is how I think it was Marmol and Mozeliak are talking about changing the approach to how they coach pitching and draft pitching and sign pitching is that they're looking for more strikeout pitchers now. And it used to be that they were a contact-oriented club. You always had great fielders behind your pitchers. And, man, that just hasn't been the case this year. And they're going to try to change their philosophy. And I do wonder if it works because there's so many other teams that try this.
Have you noticed, Phil, how, the infielders have to place themselves differently? But they're like within a centimeter of second base now. And sometimes they're moving before the pitch. So I don't know whether baseball is going to have to kind of tweak that even, like maybe you say you got to be within 3 strides of the base or something.
Well, they're looking at that shot clock, aren't they? Or they're kind of seeing that too as well?
Yes.
Well, they're also not – you have to have 2 infielders on either side of an invisible line behind second base. They can't shift anymore.
Yeah.
So
there was a walk-off.
They can stand next to second base, and then as the pitch is being delivered, run on the other side of it.
There was a walk-off balk last night, I think, in the Royals-Mets game. The guy came in and his contraption wasn't working, and, the game ended that way. So,
kind of apropos for the Mets to lose on a balk after they trade 2 Hall of Fame pitchers on back-to-back days as well.
Right.
Now, in the AL West, where you got the Rangers got Scherzer, the Astros got Verlander, do you see either one of these teams above the other, or do you think they're kind of equal at the moment?
Well, it's probably even, although Verlander's pitching better at the moment than Scherzer, but we'll see how that works out the rest of the year. I would think Verlander would be pretty happy going back to the Astros, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounded like they didn't really want to leave the Mets because they believed in what Cohen was telling them in the offseason, but now he's telling them we're rebuilding, and, these guys are too old to be part of rebuilding. Hey, Grant, you got Coach Pittman and Coach Souders talking with the media later this afternoon at 2 o'clock. What would be your first question to Coach Pittman, and then what would you like to ask Coach Souders if you got the opportunity today?
Let's see. How was your summer? I mean, this it's funny, Phil. Yesterday, Eric Musselman met the media. I've been to now, this will be my 8th practice, women's basketball practice to watch today. And the time there was nothing to do around this time of the summer, but here we are kind of in the big middle of it again with football going back. And I guess, I don't know, I guess you could ask Sam, what's your reaction to being picked 5th out of 7 teams in your division in the SEC? Is that something you can use, How do you feel about having one of 5 quarterbacks out of 14 teams that got to go to SEC Media Days and one of the better quarterbacks? I don't know, Matt, help me out here. What would you ask him?
Well, Grant, I was thinking about what you were talking about with Muss, and do you think that it's possible that I think this basketball team is going to be a better regular season team. Do you think it's possible that this basketball team is going to be better than last year's team? Should we be more excited for this coming basketball season?
I think they're loaded. I mean, I say that, and we're not able to watch their practices, but just sitting there listening to the 3 guys yesterday, I mean, you've got, as Kevin McPherson pointed out, I think 35 years of roster experience coming back. Really probably one of the older teams compared to others, and last year it was one of the younger teams, although it was very talented. So these guys, I mean, Davenport is a 5th-year guy. They were sitting there, and they were so soft-spoken you could barely hear them at times. But by the end of I don't know, maybe they were a little bit nervous first time at Arkansas to do this, but you just feel that I think this could even be a better team than last year's team.
I do too. I think this team has a legitimate chance to win the SEC. They're not divisions, but win the regular season title with all this experience they have. I mean, I think they're going to start fast and end fast.
So we were talking about age here, youth and guys that are a little older. I just hope it's a healthier team. And Muss already was speaking about a couple of, I don't know if he used the term injuries about it, but it did sound like a couple of guys were banged up over the summer. He didn't tell us who it was. He said it's all being handled behind closed doors. I don't think it was Brazil. He's just talking about he needs 9 months from the surgery to really get back into regular action. So I think he ought to be pretty close to that. But it does sound like there were a couple of guys that they just need to be healthier this year. Yes, they're older. But, man, if Brazil and Nick were healthy last year, maybe we're having a different conversation.
I'm excited to see, is it Bayfall, if I'm saying his name right, and Brazil in the front court together? Man, that's going to be an interesting matchup right there.
Yeah, they're talking about the great work habits and coming in and lifting weights before practice and all this stuff, very mature for freshmen. But back to injuries, Phil, yesterday Poffenbarger went down for a second. It is one of those deals where it's kind of scary, and then it turned out to be an ankle, not a knee, and she walked back in, before the practice was over. She's going to be okay, I think, for the trip overseas. But it's funny, we were talking about her on the sidelines. There were probably 100 people around there, coaches and different people, media, and when this thing happened. So it does feel like there are more injuries at Arkansas than other places. I mean, I guess if you were at other places, maybe it would feel that way there too. But that's a big thing. If these basketball teams can stay healthy, I think both should be better than last year.
Well, I do think this year's team for the men's side is probably built to withstand more injuries than last year. And that's got to be where the experience and the overall age of this team comes into play, maybe a little differently than last year, where you were relying on younger guys. I mean, you had your great incoming class, and a lot was put on them because of the injuries to Brazil and to Nick Smith. So potentially, and I could believe this because you have proven college basketball players, over a handful of them that have transferred in. Theoretically, it would make sense if you could withstand the injuries a little bit better, at least in the regular season, than last year, just based on their age and experience.
Eric was saying that they only had one bad practice over there and what they've been able to do this summer, and he said that Devo was 29-1 last year in terms of, said he had one bad game, really. I mean, there's a guy that probably doesn't get talked about as much with these newcomers coming in, but he's just so valuable to this team. Hey, Matt, I got a quick one for you, Matt, because I heard this on a show yesterday. They were talking about at Georgia, who was a better quarterback, Aaron Murray or Stetson Bennett? And, you could throw Fran Tarkenton or you could throw some old-timers in there. What would be your answer on that?
Yeah, David Green was when I was playing, and he was like 26-4, I think, as a starter. Aaron Murray, well, he had a strong arm. There's so much talent there. Stetson Bennett's kind of that Connor Shaw type winner, go-getter. I mean, you put guys like that on teams like that, man, both those guys are going to be good.
Florida, Steve Spurrier or Tim Tebow?
Ooh,
who's a better college quarterback?
The old ball coach, man. I'll go Spurrier.
Really, I thought Tebow was one of the best college quarterbacks I ever saw, just for his leadership and running over people.
Just because I'm 0-1 against him.
Makes sense.
And at Arkansas, you could go Joe Ferguson, Matt Jones. You could go Bill Montgomery, Quinn Grovey. Let's see, who else? Clint Sterner, Tyler Wilson, Ryan Mallett, for heaven's sake. And I'm leaving out a whole lot. So I hope the answer there is that we haven't seen the best quarterback yet.
Grant, with the FedEx Cups getting down, and is anybody going to catch Scotty Scheffler? Is he healthy? Does he win the FedEx title this year?
He probably wins it. I'm really intrigued to see if Justin Thomas can go from 79th this week to get into that thing, which starts next week in Memphis. You know anybody in Memphis that we could stay with over there for that thing?
Drew lives there. Remember my previous co-host? Drew's a Memphis guy.
Really?
Listen to the show for the 2 years he hosted would know that.
How big's his house?
I don't know. Good question, but I'll find out. You need to know if he's got. Are you okay sleeping on a pull-out couch, Grant, or do you need a full-on bed?
And the temperature is supposed to be in the 80s some next week, at least here, and I think maybe there low 90s, which would be pretty temperate for Memphis.
Outstanding. All right then, man. So we'll make plans. We'll crash on Drew's couch. Drew and Caroline, newly married and everything. They need a couple of old guys crashing on their couch in their second month of marriage. I think that'd be a perfect idea.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.